This episode of the Coarse Grind Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hi, this is Katsuya Tanabe from Top Chef, plenty of times, and you're listening to Shawn Rosler at the Coarse Grind Podcast. Don't be racist, listen it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 82 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. How's it going, everybody? Late night this evening, kidless evening this evening, and you're in for a special treat, assuming you would view an interview with me as a treat, but maybe that's not so much the treat. The better treat is the guest host that I have sitting here next to me this evening. I'm biased as hell, but I'm going to throw it over to you, guest host. S? No, host. We don't put the ESS on the end.
So...
Introduce yourself. Who the hell are you?
I don't know, most of the time.
Neither do I.
So I'm the other Rosler in the equation here, the other adult Rosler in our household. And
wait, you just admitted I'm an adult, so...
And I might just preface all of this by saying I typically screw up instant oatmeal, so I don't know how credible of a source I am to talk about food or anything about food, but my doting husband asked me to talk to him tonight about a recent experience he had that was way cooler than any oatmeal I ever make. Except when I make the kids dinosaur eggs. That's pretty cool.
I think that's cool. Or the, what is it, zoo animals, safari animals?
Zoo animal oatmeal.
It's basically called sugary nuggets of crack in oatmeal, so...
Yeah. So, with that being said, Shawn did something way cooler than eat sugary nuggets of crack, even though that might be cool, depending on who you are. But we wanted to talk tonight and share with everyone the coolest experience he had recently when he was invited to guest chef with some friends he's made through social media and beyond. And 2 weekends ago, he was able to go to the Hudson Valley in New York State and spend some time with none other than herself, the grill bitch, Beth Aretsky, and company. And we wanted to talk to everyone about it because we know lots of people are interested in his work with her and his friendship with her and just how awesome of a human being she is and what he did during that time. So here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, okay. Awesome kickoff. Thank you, guest host. It's fantastic. Let me give you the Cliff Notes version of what happened. If you had been paying attention, even if you hadn't, you probably saw like one or two posts about it because I was like a freaking schoolgirl with a Sweet Valley High book. That dates me, I guess. Sweet Valley High reference. It was really exciting to me, and the backstory goes a little something like this. For those of you who have read Kitchen Confidential, which if you haven't, go out, do it immediately. In it is a wonderful character who you might believe to be a character if you didn't realize she's a real human being, the grill bitch Beth Aretsky, and she's in it. And that's fantastic, and all of you who listen, the 10 or 12 of you, know my obsession with Anthony Bourdain, and really how he was my apex, and obviously, his loss was a big hit. What maybe some of you don't recall is that early on, this was in the early 30s, I believe, or late 30s, Beth was a guest on this show because a dear friend of ours just happened to be neighbors with her. So small world indeed. Fast forward a little bit, and I see tell through the power of social media that Beth and her guy, Chef Michael Pardus, are launching this catering pop-up gig called My Lucky Noodles. And so I reach out to her because I had been in a stream of repeat interviews, not repeat, but revisits, just to kind of see where people are at. And in doing so, we landed on a time, and wouldn't you know it, true to form, we almost doubled the interview time during that time, and really kind of strike off what I believe, to be a pretty cool friendship. Well, not a week, I don't know, honey, what was it, a week or two later, maybe? Obviously, we all get the news, Tony Bourdain had passed, and I end up calling her almost as a reflex on my way to work. And it was really cool because, I didn't even think twice about it. But when I hung up the phone and walking into work, I thought, wait, did that really just happen? And so we began to speak a little bit more. And Beth informed me of a cool event in the Hudson Valley, at Hudson Valley Brewery, this pop-up gig they were doing. And she just wondered, hey, would you want to come? And I half almost tongue-in-cheek said, yeah, maybe I can help you out too. Not thinking anyone in their right mind would take me seriously. But she did, and so, as Greta mentioned, 2 weekends ago, there I was.
Now, I'm just going to cut him off here because he'll keep talking and talking and talking, and then he won't let me talk. But the whole point of this was to have an outsider talk to Shawn a little bit about his experiences. So, with that being said, he gave you the backstory, how he had this awesome opportunity, and I just thought it'd be cool to explore some of his feelings around it, given that Tony Bourdain was such an icon in terms of what we know about what we know in the kitchen, and what we know about food, and what we know about food not just in our own kitchen, but in kitchens all over the world, and the way food brings people together. And then to have this awesome experience with someone who was together with Tony,
very, very close,
and who was a a partner and a colleague of his, in terms of all these things that happen in the kitchen. So I thought it'd be cool to explore this by proxy experience that Shawn had with someone who had worked with Tony, but then in her own way has just become an awesome friend. So with that in mind, we're gonna go with starters, and I'm gonna try to do this in the way Shawn does. Of course, I can't do anything like Shawn does.
That's probably a good thing for you. But
remember, I mentioned that I mess up over.
Now,
so.
I'm actually gonna jump in there, because if any of you were paying attention a couple days ago, there was a certain swordfish steak that was made in a very Portuguese style with Beth and Michael in Portugal. So you can stop being so humble, Eddie, please. Anyway, on to your show.
That was a Christmas, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation reference, another iconic piece of our culture.
If you didn't get it, stop listening now. Go away.
Okay, so for starters, Shawn, what was it like? Describe your feelings. What was it like when you learned that you'd get to go up and spend time with Beth and have this opportunity?
I'll give you two phases of how I felt. The one was from the ask up until the day of, the morning of myself going to work. And that was no big deal. I was going to go visit somebody who had become a friend. No big deal at all. It was only when our, again, dear friend, thanks to the show, good friend of the show, Andrew Nebel at Turkey Hill Brewing Company, was kind enough to supply a wonderful array of crowlers for my trip over for the prep, that I started to realize, I'm taking part of me, I'm taking myself there, and really putting myself out there in a way that I hadn't before. And you're intimately familiar with, how I can operate in the kitchen, and it's fine, it functions, it's not great, but it gets by. And so as I'm starting to drive with each passing mile, I see the potential imposter rating going up, and I start to question myself, more and more intensely as the miles went on. So it was at that point then that it became a gut check, really. Was I going to be able to do this? And I truly, for most of the miles, in full disclosure, did not believe for a second. I thought I would crash and burn.
Well, what was it about? What was it about going to Turkey Hill and seeing Andrew that made it so real to you? You said that's where it really hit you.
It was, because I was standing there with somebody who had been a guest of the show, but who that we see a lot, and I've, really, we formulated a great relationship with. I had the opportunity to be there last weekend, whatever. But putting these for some reason the Crowlers carried weight, no pun intended, in that, like, this was my neck of the woods. I was bringing a representation of me to them. It wasn't the show. It wasn't a guest being on the show. The tables had turned, again, no pun intended. You've interviewed me once before. That's not a big deal. But this wasn't just an interview either. This was a get your knives out, get to work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's far from an interview.
Well, I guess it was, because I got hired, according to Beth. But more on that later.
So what were you most excited about for it?
I was excited to finally meet her and to meet Michael and to just... I don't know. Like, 80... This will be, 82? 82 episodes in. For the most part, the people who aren't local, I don't meet. When we went out to California, you planned that just incredible trip. Keith, if you're listening, I know we wanted to meet up. Casey, if you're listening, I know we wanted to meet up. But I think it's a rarity that I actually get to meet a guest that is not a local contact. And so, thing one, I was going to meet a friend, for the first time, like a pen pal or some crap like that. And, but two, I was excited to get in there and to help how we could. I didn't know how I was going to help, and that's a whole other line of questioning, I'm sure. But I was just excited to be there, and what was really cool about it, and, Beth and Michael both will probably think this is unremarkable, but to somebody who is an Epicurean fan, if you will, a fanboy, I'm a fucking fanboy for that matter. For somebody who is a fanboy like that, meeting them, thing one, but at the same time having, literally fading into their home perfectly, no awkwardness whatsoever, nothing, was just amazing to me. And it's like when you see celebrities, I'm sure people have stories of, and you read them all the time, celebrities you met, no, this guy was an asshole, he wouldn't sign my kid's baseball or whatever. I have never found it, or it's at least a rarity, that anybody in the culinary field is that way. Because you can't be. There's no room for ego in the kitchen. And as soon as I met him, it was a quick, Beth, it was a quick hug, Michael, it was a quick handshake, and then it was heads down, let's go to work.
What were you most nervous about?
Failing miserably.
Failing at what?
Failing at any task put before me. And my inner insecurities. And she just put her foot up on the arm of the chair. It was kind of cute. I got distracted. You obviously know my insecurities, but one of my insecurities is to not be able to pick up something quickly. And I consider myself an apt cook. I think the moniker of guest chef was over-delivered, at least at that point. So I was worried literally about crashing and burning. Anything they put in front of me, I was waiting for just an F-up of monumental proportions.
So, okay, so you got to Beth and Michael's place, and, you're describing how you felt heading into it and kind of how it got kicked off there. So let's get into mains. Do you like how I'm doing that?
I do. It feels like it's copyright infringement, but go nuts. I'll let you slide.
Please. So the next day, Saturday, was really the day where you were going to go to this event at this brewery, I'll say.
Yeah, but we backtrack just 2 hairs real quick. Keeping in mind, I left work at around 4, came home, grabbed my stuff right out the door, right? 3-hour drive. I'd say I got there around 7:45. We got in the kitchen and started off at 8 p. and literally prepped the night before through till 2 a.m. It was a solid 6 hours of head down work. So there was some established baseline going at that point.
Established baseline of what?
Established baseline of what I was going to do, what was going to be expected of me, how I was going to fit in to the flow of things.
Yeah. Okay. So now, though, let's talk about the next day.
Right.
I don't care about your baseline. Really.
Shit.
I'm just kidding.
It's brutal.
I just like to give them a hard time. Okay, so the day comes on Saturday, and here you are going to go be a guest chef with Beth and Michael and crew at this Hudson Valley Brewery, right? That's what it was called. So describe that day. What was it like?
My eyes shoot open at like 6. So literally, I'm vibrating all high energy. I might have gotten to sleep at 3. My eyes shoot open at 6. You know me, I'll sleep in wherever I can. Well, I couldn't. 3 hours of sleep, I was up. Scramble in the morning, get everything in the car that we can fit, however we can fit it. It's like a messed up version of Tetris, trying to fit shit into the car and get everything going. And off we go. Get to the site, drop stuff off, start to set up, and I'm given the go around and find this shit list, which involved bags of ice, propane tanks, not coconut milk, sweetened condensed milk for the iced coffee. Yeah, so those 3 things, but in a place where you've never been before, and you're trying to find this. Listen, sweetened condensed milk, it can put a little fear of God in you that you're not going to be able to find this.
Sweetened condensed milk?
Right, but if you saw this downtown, it wasn't exactly, Walmart's right down around the corner. Like, it was tough to find. Found it, no problem, ultimately. But
well, okay, so you're telling us, like, the flow of how the morning went, but, like, describe the event itself, because you told me some pieces of the event that wouldn't have been transparent to me had you not told me.
So I get back with this stuff.
No, but you just describe, like, you said that this brewery is like a co-op of sorts or something. Didn't you say it was like it was a brewery, but it was like they do this every Saturday where there's this event?
No, yeah, they do that. Hudson Valley Brewery does this twice a month, but it's not a co-op. They just bring in one food vendor, and then they just sell their cases. And if you want to talk about moving volume, they moved 700 plus cases that day.
Oh my gosh.
That's a shitload of beer. But, in advance of that, we didn't just do one shift. We did 2. We did breakfast, and we did what would equate to lunch. We did a congee and a congee toppings bar. Congee is a savory rice porridge. For those not aware of that. And there really wasn't a lot for me to do at that point, but then the prep began for lunch, and that's when we started to assign more of the individual tasks, like heating up the broths. And I know I mentioned to you the one vegan broth could easily make me go vegan. Again, My Lucky Noodles, any place you see them, go and get it. And if you've ever thought about trying out vegan, try the Malaysian. The Malaysian's amazing. And Chef Michael was kind enough to let me taste some of the elements the night before, and it gave me, I think, a deeper understanding. But I spent the better part of the morning in the walk-in, which, given the temperature of the day, was nice. It was a nice change. Setting up a station to create brat mis. If you're familiar at all with Vietnamese cuisine, a banh mi, traditional sandwich, this was just done with a bratwurst. And I made around 80 or so of them. Again, head down, focused in the walk-in, and really could not have been happier, I think, because that's when I started hitting my stride. You asked me about the feelings the night before. It's then, and I'll go on record as saying this, I got my balls broken pretty significantly because I was instructed to have set up my station in the walk-in. But for somebody like me who's maybe less aware of his surroundings and what to do, I wasn't exactly moving quickly. And, Chef Michael leaned into me a little bit and got my shit together, laid it out. He showed me how to make one. And head down, eyes forward. We pushed him out the door. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, any of you, that was the item on the menu, the 86 that day. Sold all out.
When you described a line that was wrapped around the building, and so I envision this sense of, you were inside, so perhaps you didn't feel the pressure of it, but you described when you went out, seeing this line wrapped around the building for food that you're preparing. I can only imagine how that felt.
One time I brought out a flat because I started using case boxes actually from their supply, and they worked out perfect. They fit 10 banh mi's at a time. And I stacked one, and I finally walked out because Michael had come in, he had grabbed one, and I got a nice job at that point, so I'm saving that. Christine, as you told me, I'll keep that tucked away in the back of my mind. But I walked out with one flat of them, and it stopped me dead when I saw the line wrapped not only around the building, but up the parking lot. And that line never decreased. It was 2 p.m. and it was raining, and there was still remnants of that line in place. Wow. And most of the people, I think a good amount of them ate because they got something with the admission they paid. But I mean, the majority of them were walking out with literal hand carts of beer. And this beer, I don't want to say this beer isn't cheap. That makes me sound like, a redneck or something. But their 4-packs were $20. Do that math. And people are going with hand carts. And this is the volume they were moving. Like it was nothing. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you've described the day, your experience. What was the best part of the day?
Hearing that brought me 86th. Like that we moved it all. And that it was me. And having someone acknowledge that. And it wasn't so much the fact that, it was me, because it's not my sandwich. People, the fine folks I worked with, said to me, "Oh, your sandwich." It's not mine. It's Beth's. It's Michael's. They showed me how to do it. I was a monkey repeating a task. Okay, I did a good monkey task, but I think it was good monkey task. There you go. Write that shit down. It was the fact though that my hands helped move that for them. Chef Michael Pardus, I will go on record as saying, is one of the most brilliant culinary personas I've ever met in my life. Just wonderfully brilliant and willing to share his knowledge. And, he showed me how to make one, and I took care of the other 79.
Well, what was it like, though, preparing this food for not only Chef Michael, but Beth? Yes,
and that was, going back to the sandwich, I took one out at one point, so, okay, I guess that's the second one that didn't sell. And Beth Aretsky, whose name I first saw in probably 2003, 2004, fast forward to today, she took a bite of it, looked at me, and loved it. And that if I wasn't so tired, because I'm a crier, anyone who knows me knows I'm a crier, I would have bawled. I would have literally bawled. And I would have done it in the walk-in. I would have had the goddamn common dignity to go in the walk-in and take a mop with me. But it was so flattering. There were two moments that truly, I'll even go 3. Top 3 moments was Beth tasting that and loving what I made for her. Chef Pardus giving me the good job, keep going, make those sandwiches until your little fingers fall off, and goddamn if I didn't do it. And then honestly, at one point, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Chefs Logan and Kate, who worked along with me. I think taking them beers from the walk-in, because here's the little thing you guys didn't know. Beth, Michael, Logan, Kate, if you're listening. Chef Pardus, I know you came back and offered me to come out and work outside. I'm not stupid. I was in a walk-in on a 95-degree day, and anytime they knocked over a 4-pack of beer and one got a little dent in it, they couldn't sell it. Guess where it went? Me, okay? I was happy where I was at, but the third, probably most, just pleasing, was when I came out and Logan and Kate, you both brought beers out for you, and, I really felt like if but for one day, I was part of the squad. I held my own. I held my station down. And probably honorable mention was cleaning Beth's knife off and returning it to her. That was an honor. That was an honor. And that's where, Beth, if you were paying attention, there were a couple droplets in my eyes. So that was an honor.
Wow. Awesome. Well, okay, so sounds like an amazing day and experience. So let's head into afters. So what do you wish you knew heading into it?
I don't wish I knew anything differently. I'm happy the way it played out. I think the ignorance is just like I'm playing in a golf tournament with your dad this weekend, right? And how many times have I golfed this year? I can count them on 0 fingers. I have no expectations of what I'm going to do this Saturday. In the same way, even though I was nervous, even though I was like, I want to do well, I had no expectations of what I would do. And to come out of there and to be able to do that, it was divinely satisfying in the most ignorance is bliss based fashion ever.
Well, what did you learn?
Jesus, what didn't? I can hang in a kitchen. I could, you know, if plastics teaching any learning fall through for me, I can probably find a kitchen who would take my humble skills. And I can julienne faster than grill bitch.
Oh,
that's right. Face.
So, last but not least, as your final after course, which let me just add, Shawn brought home 2 afters, 2 desserts, which were this...
I didn't even mention those.
Matcha green tea tiramisu? Right. Is that what they were?
So they're lovingly referred to as the matcha misu. So it's traditional ladyfingers, but the ladyfingers are dredged in a green tea matcha just to soften them a little bit. And they were placed in, not mason jars, but jelly jars, right? Essentially?
Yeah.
Mason-esque jars. And 3 ladyfingers down. And then there was this wonderful cream cheese ricotta blend.
You said it was mascarpone.
Or mascarpone. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. And with the green tea matcha mixture. And so it's a slight bit more savory than one would expect out of a tiramisu.
I wouldn't call it savory. It was herbal. It had this herbal, earthy...
was it umami?
Well...
Did it make you go, ooh, mommy?
It was... So as we head into afters, more, and my final after question for Shawn, I just think it's worth noting that dessert was out of this world in such a unique, flavorful way. So thank you for sharing that with us, Beth and Michael.
Well, that's... And yet, there again, there's another example. Beth had 10,000 other things to do. She showed me how to make one. I made, Beth, I think we did, 48? Maybe 60?
Wow.
So
it was really delicious.
Really good.
So, in conclusion, Shawn, if this experience was a dish, a meal, something tasteful in a culinary way, what meal would it be?
Oh,
he's silent, ladies and gentlemen. You'll never hear this again.
If it was a meal, what would it be?
If it was a meal, if it was a food, if it was a dish, what would it be?
Shit. Honestly, from just a symbolic standpoint, it would be pommes frites and steak tartare. And there's a reason I say that, and I think you can put it together. I'm actually going to turn this around. I'm going to put her on the spot. Why would I say that?
Because when we went to Les Halles in 2009, right?
Yeah, when did I turn 30?
09?
Nah, I turned 30.
Just kidding. It was 07.
07, because you were pregnant with Wesley.
Yeah. We went to Les Halles in 07, and we had the best steak tartare and pommes frites, and we had French press coffee, and it was all amazing and amazing.
That's what it would be, and that I'll give you credit. 82 episodes that actually put a lump in my throat when I just realized that just now, because as dear as that meal was to me, I now put brat mi and matcha misu alongside of it, because like I said, with the Bourdain episode that I did, I truly believe that in some very cosmic, removed way, that his goal for me, whether he realized it or not, which he didn't, of course, was to meet others because of him, not to meet him. He was always reluctant in his fame, in his stardom, and he was always willing to hand it over. And so, because of his, not to be dark about it, but because of his passing, I truly feel like I have a good number of new colleagues, dare I say friends, not 3 hours away, and I'm hoping to continue that friendship, continue that partnership, some things in the works perhaps, but...
Well, and, I'm just going to say, you're saying it was the steak tartare. I would say, just as a bystander, if you had to call this event a food, there's nothing more perfect than calling it that matcha misu, because it was down to earth. It was different. It was rich. It was unexpected. And it was a combination of things that you might not expect to go together. And here you are, and they create this awesome dynamic. So, you know, I think it was an awesome experience, and I'm super proud of you for hanging with the big dogs.
Hanging with the big dogs. How the hell are you going to make me almost cry on my own show? I hate you. I love you, though. So on that note, Beth, I would like to say that you have left an incredible impression on my husband, as has Chef Michael, and Logan and Kate and
I'm glad
Christine.
to call you my friends by proxy as well. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not even gonna jump in here with some big enthusiastic outro. You know the game, kids. This has been episode number 82 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you this evening has been the superb guest host, the ample, wonderful, talented guest host, my wife, Greta Rosler. So thank you so much for being here this evening and taking the reins. My producer, as always, this evening has been the lovely and voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. And we will be back with episode 83, speaking of the Hudson Valley Brewery, before you know it. So thanks for tuning in. Keep listening.